right, what is up, party people in the house? Yo, it's AD back again with my brothers. Yo, we're doing another episode of GeekChic for all of y'all. Thank you for joining us again for another explosive, entertaining, intellectually stimulating episode of GeekChic. Once again, I'm your boy AD. Let me just run it down the line and introduce my brothers. Yo, Rob, introduce yourself, brother.
What's up, baby? Boogie, Rob popping. What's good? Glad to be back with my brothers, keeping it entertained for all of our people out there. And I'm gonna pass it now to my other brother up in the TX, the big Texas, where they do it bigger and better. So he say, my brother George. What's going on, baby?
I'm good. I think I'm making history with the first ever carpool podcast. And in the shadows, I guess I'll have to revert to my internet handle from my digital days that Don might remember. Dr. Midnight signing on from the...
Oh, yeah, I'm on Dr. Midnight. I love
right.
Dr. Midnight. Yeah.
713.
Are you an Uber driver? You driving Uber or Lyft? What's going on?
I'm driving me today.
So for future episode, we're gonna do our part-time Uber jobs, and we're gonna do an Uber podcast.
There you go. There you go.
I'm feeling that.
So yo, Rob, man, what's popping, man? What's going on? What you been thinking about?
Yo, since last time we was on, man, the one thing that I've really been thinking about that is it the revival of the DCEU? I mean, since the last we really got into it, yo, the movie Aquaman blew up. I mean, we've long had a lot of proponents, a lot of people who kind of bashed the DCEU, and some people have been on the show and stuff. But I mean, $1.1 billion later, is DCEU back, or is this a one-off, and we shouldn't expect more? So
you're saying 1.1 billion? They made $1 billion.
They made $1.1 billion worldwide, 428 million domestically, about 690 or something like that, I believe, foreign. So we talking about a major hit, cost 160 million to make. So they doubled their money just in the U.S. alone, and made it times 10 basically if you go worldwide.
Okay. So I mean, are you talking about quality, or are you talking about monetarily? What do you when you say they're back? What are you saying?
Well, I'm saying this is besides Wonder Woman, this is the first movie where it wasn't panned critically and also made a ton of money. I mean, because Wonder Woman's kind of been the gold standard of what a DC movie should be, and this actually did about 400 million more than Wonder Woman did, and also while having a different tone, obviously, was considered a great popcorn movie. I mean, by a lot of people, where forget the depth of it, it was just a great old school. I enjoyed myself going to the movies with my friends, family, whoever it may be.
Right. So
is this it? So my question to my brothers is, number one, you guys seen the movie? Do you like the direction that the DCU is going? 2, is this just a one-off? And 3, where do they go from here?
I'm feeling it. I gotta say I'm feeling it. Mm-hmm. I suspected it was going to be done well. I think when they casted Jason Momoa for the role, just when they did it in the Super Friends, the Justice League movie, I felt that was a good direction to go in, right? It reminded me of a little bit more of the longer-haired version of Aquaman when they show him in the comics, or they show them in the Justice League animated series. That's a little bit no joke. The one with his hands cut off, and he's a little bit like Namor, Submariner kind of attitude, right, as opposed to the kind of happy-go-lucky, one. They kind of went somewhere in the middle between this Aquaman, between the jerk, right, to the point that the guy that the kind of lovable guy, but the lovable guy was a little too lovable in the Super Friends, and I think
he was kind of wimpy. Let's get to the point. He's a little wimpy in the Super Friends.
I mean, he was a little wimpy in the Super Friends, right?
I don't even know if he was lovable. He was just kind of like the all.
Yeah, he was a joke.
Yeah.
Well, it was like the Family Guy slam where a woman's being assaulted by a man on the beach, and
Oh my God, that
Aquaman
was
is
the
like
funniest
20
one.
yards out in the water, going, "If you come out here in the water, I'll take care of you. Just come on out. I can't do anything here." And it's like, damn, just totally disrespected Aquaman, right?
That
What I
was the
like,
illest Aquaman joke because he said, "Hey, look at this! I got starfish circling around you. I got a group of starfish circling around you. If you get this water, it's gonna be trouble. It's gonna be trouble with these starfish."
it was
Exactly.
beyond cool, man. And I have no doubt that in writers' meetings they were playing down a continuous loop, like we can't go out like that. Whatever we do, we can't go out like that. But there were three things about Aquaman that I thought that really helped it. One, the Jason Momoa factor. There were
Can't deny that.
women in my workplace who wouldn't know, who otherwise wouldn't know, anybody other than Batman and Superman in the DECU, right? And they were going, "Well, Jason is on. No last name. He's a first namer already, right? I
Mm-hmm.
went to see Jason." So, I mean, that was huge. We just might as well admit it. And I think we haven't seen that from a DC movie, honestly, since Christopher Reeve and Superman.
Well,
When it
I don't know. Gal Gadot got a couple of dudes going to one.
No,
One,
I'm saying for women. Gal
yeah,
Gadot, Gal Gadot got everything going on. I'm just saying as far as the male
I agree.
beefcake charisma factor, whatever you want to call it. So that was one. Two, it definitely, and I don't want to make the movie sound like a derivative of a Marvel movie, but you definitely saw a little Thor Ragnarok. There was some heaviness, but it was definitely leaving by the humor. It was definitely lighter tone.
Yeah.
Everything about the color palettes,
Well,
it very much felt like Asgard underwater. And that's not a slam. I think that was exactly the way to roll with it. And then if I'm going to use my third one, and this might be a bit loaded, Aquaman and Orm, or I should say Arthur Curry and Orm, it was like Eric Killmonger winning over T'Challa.
Right.
And
So I saw. So it's
twist.
funny. It's funny. I know you're going on that too, because I saw a couple of articles on that too. Right. There was somebody who suggested that Aquaman did it right, and because they allowed Orm to get redeemed, and at the end, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, but Orm is redeemed in the end of Aquaman, as opposed to, and again, spoiler alert for Black Panther, you haven't seen it at this point. Killmonger is not redeemed, right? And he's put in a situation where, in theory, unless some crazy thing comes back, he's not coming back, right? So,
I respectfully disagree. I think
Killmonger was a little bit redeemed. I think he was a little bit redeemed in the sense that
he won the argument. He basically won the debate.
Yeah.
Because Nakia told T'Challa, like, we can do both. We can remain Wakanda to our core and still reach out to the world. And, Killmonger was like, where were you? And at the end, T'Challa's like, we will be there. Maybe not your way.
And where did Black Panther end at as far as that part of the movie? He ended in Killmonger's hometown of Oakland.
Right.
Style.
But you look at it, right? Killmonger is still, he's a sociopath, right? I mean, clinically he's a sociopath. He's at best, borderline personality disorder. At worst, he's a raging lunatic, right? He could be right, but he still has those qualities. If you look at Orm, right? He just thought his mom's died. Right? And that's, and then he normalized himself, right? It's interesting how they play those two together. But and to your point there, George, right, that there's this whole idea that if you look at DCU versus what the MCU did, the MCU started out lighthearted, more or less, right? You can argue that Iron Man was a little bit, a little rougher, but they started out lighthearted, and now they've gone much darker. With definitely with Infinity War, and then especially where you see the trailer for Endgame is going. I mean, it's getting real dark. Versus if you look at DCU, they started off dark, right? And they started out with the team up. And so they start out with a dark team up, and now they're going out with the individual ones that are a little bit lighthearted. And then the lighthearted ones are the ones that's getting more fan and critic acclaim. So it's interesting that they've done that. But I know that's a little digress from the old Orm conversation, but it feels like that's all together, right? Like, they started to take some of that stuff that's from Black Panther, right? That work there, that kind of, but not take itself too seriously.
But this and we're going. I'm just going to bring up this. Do we believe that this is the wave of the future for DCEU, or once again is this a one-off?
I believe that there's enough reasonably smart people in the room, not named us, who can read the tea leaves and go, first of all, one lesson they should have learned was you've got to earn what Marvel's had. Marvel got to where they got by earning it character by character, brick by brick, mortar in between. DC didn't do that. Aquaman and Wonder Woman are starts in that direction. You see
they
why
tried
the
to skip
characters
steps.
are where they are. They tried to skip steps.
Yeah, they wasn't willing to invest in the building blocks that Marvel Studios particularly did in starting from scratch and building to the crescendo of where we're at right now and all that other stuff. But I think this is one of those things we can go on forever and a day. But kind of what I wanted to lead into was going from one blockbuster to the next, and that's talking about what everybody's talking about is Fortnite. And I would like to throw that to my brother George in particular and see what he thinks about the recent phenomenon of Fortnite.
Well, it's reached a new level, one that kind of blew my mind. Netflix made $16 billion last year in revenue, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they put out the shareholders report, and Netflix was talking about their competition, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in their earnings report that they published last week, or the week before last, Netflix estimated commands about 10% of TV screen time in the US. And that's their most important metric, television screen time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in other countries, they said the penetration rate is lower, but the reason isn't because of voodoo. It isn't because of HBO. It isn't because even of Disney, which is going to poach some of Netflix leading,
some of their main properties, some of their Disney properties, their Marvel properties, things of that nature.
Exactly. The Marvel properties, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage,
The Incredibles,
Daredevil, Punisher, all that's probably going to Disney, but that's not their comp. Their comp is Fortnite. They said that Fortnite is a bigger threat to them than HBO. That makes you go, damn. I mean, because Netflix has about 180 million eyeballs, subscribers globally. Fortnite in 18 months, since it launched in, I think, July of 2017,
that's correct.
Got 200 million. 200 million. And it's just mind-boggling. They had a online concert, that drew 10 million eyeballs over 15 minutes. I mean, so
impressive.
So George, let me throw this at you. For non-gamers, I don't think you have to be a gamer to know what Fortnite is. I think it's hit a.
But let's talk about it, right?
But I want to go into that. Is this for a non-gamer? Can we believe that this is a long-term problem or a short-term phenomenon? And this is not a throwing either.
Or is it a problem at all, right?
Yeah, I'm
opportunity.
Now, just for everybody who's watching this, we all were gamers at one point. That all three of us has been there. I've kind of not been as much into games over the last 10 years, even though I keep my ear to it. My other two brothers are. So I'm trying to speak for the non-gamers who might just want to know what exactly.
The one thing about Fortnite, and I'm not a Fortniter, right?
Mm-hmm.
One is cross-platform, right, and cross-device. So you can play it on a lot of devices, and that's kind of the nirvana, honestly, from a gaming platform. I think, and they have this little hook, right, of the fact that you have this immersive world. You can go anywhere, so free range, free roam. But then that world starts to collapse, kind of like Hunger Games, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's a shoot them up, shoot them all. You can there's a team up aspect to it, and then it's a free game, and then it allows you to have the kind of the DLC downloadable content that you can purchase in game to kind of customize your character. So the fact that it's free gives people of all sorts of socioeconomic backgrounds there. And then one of the things you've seen in a lot of console games, whether it's 2K or Madden or especially the sports titles, but also Call of Duty and a lot of and Black Ops and things like that. The ability to buy a lot of DLC to get the game to where you want to be, to get your characters to where you want them to be. They made it into a science. It's similar to other online games as well that are out there in the mix as well. And George is more of an online guy than I am. I tend to be more console. But the couple of things I'll point out: one, the fact that it's multi-platform is huge, and simultaneously, that's one of those Nirvana things that you can kind of come off. The way that the game actually works, I tend to think that people are going to get tired of it at some point. I mean, just as you get tired of any game. I mean, Halo was the game at one point, right? Call of Duty was the game.
Yeah, I played Fortnite, and that's my one thing, because I played it. Once again, not saying I'm a gamer like I used to be, but I had played it, found it to be, somewhat interesting, even though, like I said, I'm not in the games like I used to be. But it's harder for me to know if this is a phenomenon or a long-standing problem for anybody. And I'm just trying to get a base, because I don't see it, but I'm not in the game.
To me, like, it feels like the Snapchat of games. To me, it feels like
the game itself might have another year or two in it. Who knows? I mean, you look at World of Warcraft, right?
Mm-hmm.
It had a long ass run.
It did.
As an interactive
World of Warcraft did.
Yeah.
Yes, it did.
And to the point where they actually made a movie out of it, which I decided I had other things to do, like wash what's left of my hair. But they had a great run. I was a City of Heroes guy myself, and that had a pretty good run. I think even if Fortnite tends to jump the shark, something like it will replace it. And the fact is, you've got this Pandora's box that's opened up due to interactive content that nobody else can touch right now.
But is it interactive or is it just gaming?
Gaming
it's just another gaming platform, and then people are on it, and you know what I mean. It's like
concerts. When you start throwing concerts on, and also there's ways you can pick up purchases for free. There's like, the odds are kind of shaky to the point where there are people who want Fortnite classified as gambling, or at least certain aspects of it.
Right.
Much like fantasy football. And we saw how that's gone. So,
but it's always funny, right? And I'm always the thing about innovation and technology, that there's not a lot of new under the sun. You're just kind of doing something that already existed. The whole concept of Fortnite, I think our brother Chris was talking about another game that had the same, closed, collapsing world in it, that came up to, the same point. I think the interesting thing about it is that it is a game, and it's popular, right? And it's free. So then you get so many people on it. I mean, I think the fact of popularity, nicheness, the fact that it's a game, so then you may not get other generations in it involved, right? So now it becomes that cool thing that a certain type of person does. I think that is what leads to the concerts. I think the spectacle around the game more so than the game itself, and the fact that you can get people to the platform is the part that is the most interesting. But I mean, I do take your point that Netflix is worried about that more so than HBO or some other thing. But I think they're going to jump the shark on that, because it's not ready for prime time for the next application. I don't think. That's my take.
I think that long term we're looking at the Fortnite niche. Think of it as Fortnite has created market penetration. And also, I'm trying to formulate this, but we know about the concept of the killer app, right?
Mm-hmm.
The killer app was often driven by software. So the killer app in the case of the PC was Lotus 1, 2, 3. The killer app for the VCR was adult movies. I think Fortnite might be the killer app for interactivity in terms of media presence. And where do you go with it? I know that Netflix has a show called Baldersnatch. That's their first stab at interactivity. Will it
Mhm.
match Fortnite? I have no clue. It'll be interesting to watch. But I think that door's been open and it's not closing easily. And we will, at worst case, look at Fortnite as a significant branch point in how a fragmented, forgive me, a fragmented market when it comes to media interactivity is going to become more fragmented.
I feel like it's
So
going to be Pokemon Go. That's my take. People are going to get bored with it. It's going to drop off because people are going to get bored of the game, right? And then they're not going to be able to monetize it because they're not going to get to the next thing. You know, the thing I think got the run for World of Warcraft is that it
yep.
had an immersive storyline. You know, Age City, you know, City was the City of Heroes, I think it was. You know,
Mhm.
Right.
That also has immersive storylines. The storylines, yeah, you know, once you finish one shoot 'em up game, right? You're just gonna
Right.
you want to go into the next one,
But this
right?
is the key. But does Fortnite is Fortnite the Pandora's box of meaning not Fortnite? Fortnite can be used as a symbol of is this the Pandora's box
Yeah.
for Netflix? As
Exactly.
far as it doesn't have to be
In
Fortnite. It doesn't.
2025,
Yeah,
it's 2025.
yeah,
So
interactive gaming is that a concern for them?
now
And
And I
particularly,
think,
go
I
ahead.
say
and I was going to say,
2025.
Okay.
and I was going to say, you know, and to go to both of your points, I think Rashawn and I are on pretty much the same page with Fortnite being a keystone, a milestone point.
Mm-hmm.
But how hard would it be, Adon, to merge the interactive experience and shoot 'em up aspects and the community butt kicking of Fortnite with an immersive storyline? You
Well, you
know,
know,
when
it's
you merge
funny.
those two,
Yeah,
cancel Chris.
now if you do that, yeah, then I could see that going. And I think that kind of speaks to the point of something else that I wanted to talk about too, which is, you know, I think Fortnite is being driven a lot by in a lot of not gaming in general, but Fortnite in particular and certain types of games are being driven by millennials. Whereas you might have looked at other games and thought maybe, you know, the earlier other titles were kind of being driven by an older demographic. But game developers are also going, you know, down market, going to the millennials and expecting them to drive the future of the gaming as that makes sense. But the funny thing is, you know, whether it's gaming or whether it's home sales or, you know, whether it's movies, everybody is thinking about millennials, but then they're thinking about millennials in the terms of all the generations. And it's so funny because there was something that CBS News put out the other day.
AD.
Gen X. So
Mm-hmm.
they had the post millennials at the bottom. Then they went to millennials. Then they skipped Gen X and then went right to the baby boomers. And then they and then after that they went to the silent generation, right? You know, right before the quote unquote best generation, right? And the funniest thing about that graphic that they showed on the news, so they had 4 generations minus Gen X, but they had all the dates of each one listed, and they just completely missed it. So the question being, you know, why is Gen X considered, you know, the Jan Brady of the generations? What do you guys think? Have you noticed this?
Well, you know, this is something I've been talking about, and let's for full disclosure, without giving exact ages for anybody watching, we're technically all Gen Xers. You know, we're not the early Gen Xers by no stretch of imagination. We're more the late Gen Xers, but we're Gen Xers. You know, it's been a fascinating conversation that we've talked about with this. Is that if you go and take a look at Gen Xers, we're generally right now we have more money, we're more educated. We're actually more educated than millennials. People don't know. People don't really know this. We're way more educated than millennials because millennials no longer have the attention span or the desire to fight through something. So where we would, we have a bad, we would have a bad first semester of college and keep it going, and eventually graduate with a 3.0. Gen Xers just kind of go and say the hell with it and do something else, and stuff like that. And by the way, not opinionated. In that same CBS article that Adon's talking about, actually pinpointed that Gen X is actually the most educated, and has not counting the baby boomers, who are, some of them are CEOs, but in general we have the highest per capita income. So in some strange way, I don't know if we're not as sexy as maybe that. I mean, you think about what the Gen X generation was, where the MTV culture, a lot of the things that we were known for has kind of gone away per se. Like MTV is no longer, the TRL crew and all that type of stuff that we grew up on. It's a hard thing to pinpoint, but it just seems that we're the forgotten successful generation for whatever.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, it even it's funny that was on CBS, because CNBC last year had put out something last summer saying Gen X was actually changing the nature of the work. Not, we look at the millennials doing it.
Yeah, and we've been changing, but I mean, you just think about it. I mean, it's some of it is timing too. I mean, probably we're being forgotten because a lot of the most successful Gen Xers, with the exception of some people like say a Jay-Z or whatever it may be, have kind of we've faded in the background, not faded from success, but we just kind of moved on and wanted to go in the background to be more successful behind the scenes. And you think of guys like athletes. The Gen X athletes are no longer playing. Gen X athlete was Kobe Bryant. All those guys are retired. It's all millennials that are in pro sports. You think about the new age of music. The majority, not counting the legends of music like a Jay-Z, a Nas, or whatever like that for our music, who are Gen Xers. Now it's these bum ass dudes named Migos and everybody else. I just think we don't have the voice. I just don't think our voice. We're actively going out there trying to get.
The problem is that, and I don't look at myself as a pragmatist, but ultimately we wind up being very much pragmatists. So, as an example, take Facebook for example. We all know people who are on this podcast, not today, but on the podcast, right? Who aren't on Facebook, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who've never been on Facebook, have no desire to be on Facebook, right? But they are probably the most technical people that you can meet. Right. And what happens with a lot of times with Gen X is like, just like we had that last conversation with the gaming, right? I'm like, hey, I've been here before. I know, right, that like I have an opinion about something that you're not gonna like, and I'm not afraid to express it. And it's not an old man bah humbug opinion. It's an informed opinion that has experience behind it and a view of where the technology is going. And I think because it comes off like that, people are just like, I don't want to hear that. I mean, I would prefer to hear the curmudgeon, right, of the baby boomer, or I prefer to hear the idealist of the millennial. But you guy in that middle that's talking ultra pragmatist, that's not sexy for me.
And just full disclosure, I think Adon will be the first one to tell you I'm the ultimate pragmatic person. I'm just very much, it is what it is, and I just kind of say it. But like you said, it's not as sexy as, like you said, being the mean old guy and coming out there, get off my lawn, you guys, everybody sucks and go to hell, or the idealist, like that it's just not as sexy. It's not the storyline is not there. So somehow, some way, with all the success I've had, I'm kind of like, okay, you've been successful, but we prefer to hear from this guy who's not as successful as you, but it's just a better story. I mean, but George, what's your opinion of it?
I'm a slightly older member of Generation X. And, until recently, I thought I had more of a Generation Y vibe. And some point I got old overnight here, and I'm kind of resentful. I mean, but you look at it, some of our favorite artists, right? They're in commercials. I never thought the day would come when, Prince and George Clinton would be used for commercial music. I'm like, too edgy, but that always happens, right? There was a generation that thought the Beatles and the Stones were the end of civilization as we knew it. The NFL paid you Start Me Up for their kickoffs one year.
Mm-hmm. How about Nas doing Lincoln Center with a full orchestra?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's gotten, we are moving, we're no longer the in thing. Most advertisers want the young, they want the vibe. I mean, hey, wait till Drake becomes, relatively mainstream. God forbid Little John, but it always happens. I mean, look at Maroon 5 wouldn't have been the most boring Super Bowl act ever 5, 10 years ago. But now, and leaving aside the whole, context of
They were
artists
still the most boring
boycotting,
Super Bowl act of all time, by the way.
they still would have been. But I
Yeah.
mean, I think part of it is just that, as all of you pointed out, we're in our mid 30s, mid 40s. I think the difference is I want to believe that we're the most vital 40s and 50 somethings of any generation that's come along. We don't roll like our parents. We
We
travel
do not.
more, we're more
We do not.
active, we run, we work out. At least I do. I don't know about you losers, but but hey, I got weight to lose. But
Yeah.
we've got, I think we do things a little differently than people our age did 10, 15, 20 years ago. And we're looking like you're treating us like old fogies. We're not.
Yeah, so it's hilarious because of that too. Because I wonder, right? Does that also contribute to the forgettingness, right? I think while you talked about before, like Gen X being that slacker generation, or perceived at that in high school, and they weren't, right? If anything, we're the people who know the current music, the future music. Well, we don't know the future music now because we think it sucks, but we know the current music, and we knew our parents' music because there was limited things to listen to. I don't know if there was an episode of Blackish where they were talking
Where they didn't know Prince. Where they didn't
yeah,
know
nobody
Prince.
the Generation Y.
Yeah.
But it was surprising. The millennials knew Prince,
Yeah.
but specifically, I think it extends beyond Prince, right? Gen X, we know everything that our parents knew. I'm there telling my mom, music. Oh no, that's not. They didn't come out. They didn't come out in '72, mom. That came out in '74. Like, you know what I mean? Stuff before,
Well, like you said, me and my dad have debates on who we like better, the OJs or the Temptations.
Right.
Like, because I'm more of like I like more the OJs. He's obviously
Kick him off. Adon, bump him off. Mute him.
You
Mute
don't
him.
you don't like the OJs? You're not into OJs?
No, I like the OJs, but my mom's from Detroit, man. I'm Motown to the core, man.
Man, you all over. You in every state.
You in
There's
every
no
state, dude. You can
that George does not claim.
You could probably claim. And by the way, the OJs is one state over. They're Ohio, dude. What are you talking about?
If you're gonna claim Ohio, man, how about the Ohio players? I mean, come on.
They do not compare to the OJ. The OJ's and by the way, the OJ's lineage also extends into the Levert and Gerald and everybody else.
But check this out about on topic. Can you imagine the millennials having a conversation about at this level about Rakim and Big Daddy Kane, right? And LL, you know what I mean? At that level, I thought I liked Salt and Pepper, but when Roxanne Sean K came out, like I can't imagine them possibly having a conversation. And part of it is, to be fair to them, is that they have more choices, so they have to filter more, right? And because their life is based upon Google, and they came out when things were relevant to them in high school and in grammar school, Google's around, and your job was to try to filter content, whereas ours was to, Rob, I was talking about it earlier, when hip hop came out, I didn't just buy like the albums I liked. I bought every album.
Everything.
I bought everything.
But you hit on something huge because my lady friend has teenagers, right? One's 14, one's in college. They sort of know old school, but they don't, right?
Mm-hmm.
And our generation, and honest to God, I don't want to be the old fogey. I never wanted to be all modern music is crap. But hip hop, by its very nature, built off of everything that came before it, like samples and whatnot. So yeah, I grew up in a Motown household, right? I had Stevie Wonder. Then your choir Prince. My dad's a jazz head, right? So I was hearing Coltrane and Miles. You could see the clear lineage that you can trace a direct line from jazz to hip hop, and it was pretty obvious. We built that, and also our radio stations, the way the music, like Magic 102 in Houston, where I am now, they've been on the air pretty much since the time I moved to Houston in '78. Magic 102 would play Queen. They would, there was some Queen bled over. There was some Hall and Oates,
But I was
stuff
gonna say
like that.
we all knew Hall and Oates. We all knew Lisa
Right.
Stansfield. It was a little bit. And think about this. You're where you're at right now. You're in your car. I was thinking about this. The analogy would be this: back when we were all kids and we were in the car with your mom put on Motown. Don's mom might have put on might have put on some something from Epic Records or Solar Records, Shalimar, whatever like that. Even if we didn't want to hear it, we had to listen to it because it's like, it's my car, I'm driving, you listen to the station, learn some good music. To be honest, perfect example. I have a daughter, I have nieces and stuff like that. They get in my car, they know I'm not listening to Migos or nothing like that. They don't care. They put on their headphones, pull out their iPad, and they listen to whatever they want to do. So they don't even get to hear the good music I'm playing because they didn't tuned it out or whatever like that, which I don't,
And they don't, right. And I talk to 20, 30 somethings when I'm working out. And sometimes they'll hear my workout mixes. And I'm like, you don't know about this? And they don't understand what came before more than a decade ago. Jay-Z to them is golden age rap.
Mm-hmm.
Anything before Jay-Z and maybe Tupac, forget it. And that's kind of sad. And but it's also a reflection of where society and culture has gone. As you point out, Rashawn, transmission of information is different. Radio stations are much more segregated in this country. The apartheid we have on the radio, there's no niche. There's no niche for traditional R&B in a lot of markets because the so-called R&B black station, whatever you want to call it, plays hip hop, rap, trap music, or whatever. There's no niche for a consistent niche for Angie Stone, Jill Scott on a lot of stations.
What's funny? Contemporary adult R&B now, and to show you, I hate to say it, both our age and how things are going. You can go to a quote unquote contemporary adult R&B station, which means that they're probably not playing, Kendrick and all those stuff. They'll play Biggie now. They've now transitioned because that's a 48-year-old program manager who's like, I was 21 when Biggie was popping. And or when he first came out, or I was 23, 24 when and you think about it. If you're 48 years old today in 2019, we'll say you're born in 71, you were only 25 and 26 when Biggie died. Remember, Tupac would be 48. So just giving timelines to people to get understanding. So now we've transitioned into a different stage in our lives right now, which is kind of fun.
The interesting thing though, Rise, that I also wonder is, this, to be honest, is right. It's, if anyone read, like, I think I want to say it's Outliers. Yeah, I think it's Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. And he talks about, being born at the right time and given the right advantages at the right time. And then, it's a 10,000 hour idea that if you spend, you have to start with talent. But if you have talent and time and resources, you can do a lot of things. And that kind of talks to why, Ellison and Gates and Jobs were all born at the same time in the same year and had phenomenal companies, and at the end of the baby boomer cycle. Flip side, right? You talk about the Zuckerbergs, right, and the others who are starting to form the millennial tech giants. And I think sometimes people went from the tech giant. You might say, maybe it's Bezos, right? Maybe you say him. Maybe you say Michael Dell. Maybe you say Tim. Maybe you say Elon Musk, right?
Isn't what I mean? Gen X? Don't we? It's funny that we going back to the initial thing of how we're forgotten. Some of them, we talk about technology, which runs the world. They're Gen Xers. I mean, they're Gen Xers. Sergey and Larry at Google.
Right.
Bezos.
People don't think about those, right? They don't think about those as Gen X. Yeah, right?
But they're Gen Xers.
They don't think about Bezos. They don't think about, Sergey and Larry. They don't think about Elon Musk, Jack Dorsey from Twitter. You know what I mean? They don't think about, Tim Armstrong. He's the CEO of AOL, but he didn't found AOL.
How old is Tim Cook? I'm just out of curiosity.
That I don't know. Let's find that one out. But I don't know the answer to that. But
it's just a curiosity question. Because he might be a Gen Xer too. Because Gen X starts in what, 68?
Gen X started in 64. Baby boomers end in
He's a baby
63.
boomer. He's a baby boomer.
Oh, he is, okay.
He's a baby boomer. So
He's like that. And keep in mind the range we're talking here. Bill Clinton, for example, would be considered the quintessential baby boomer.
Exactly.
Tim Cook would probably be more towards the tail end. But it's a wide range. So if you were born in 63, you're a baby boomer. Mercifully, I can claim Gen X, and that's all I'm going to say. And
clawing and scratching and can't claim it.
Yeah, you know it. But you know, it's
all right. Well, let's go. We've been going on for a minute, man. I mean, we could go on for 9 minutes, but so wrap. Last parting words, George. What do you got to say?
Blessed to be here. I'm enjoying every show is a learning experience for me. Besides me running my mouth, I get a bigger kick out of listening to it. But I think you said something about Gladwell that I totally appreciate because I read that book too. Opportunity, it's opportunity, preparation, but it's also just being born at the right time to leverage it. You can be brilliant and born 4 years too late, and then you're Scottie Pippen instead of MJ.
I know. Hey, we're going to another one on that one though. I love that though. That's a nice way to leave it. Rob, what you got to say?
Once again, glad to be back with my brothers. Listen, I just want to say to everybody, I think this is one of our better episodes. I think we went on different topics, but I can just tell you 2019, bigger and better things even coming, and I'm kind of going to leave it at that. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in a couple of weeks, and watch for our special Oscars, pre-Oscars show that we're going to do in a couple of weeks. So it's going to be really fun.
No doubt. All right, real quick. Ready? Going around. Namor or Arthur Curry? Rob.
Arthur Curry.
George?
Curry, I'll have a caveat. I would love to see Namor and T'Challa team up like they do in the Hoodlum run. But now, give me Curry.
The correct answer was Namor. Good. Good.
Hold on.
We'll talk about it next time.
Hold on. Why would it be Namor? Why would it be Namor? Namor, because just real quick, Namor don't got no chicks. Namor be getting his ass whooped by Thor and them.
And he got some stuff, and he got a stalker mentality when it comes to Sue Richards.
Yeah, when it comes to Sue Storm, he was straight stalker.
And what are we gonna say about? What we gotta say about them wings on the ankles, man? That
all right. Then open up that doors box.
Yeah.
All right, let's go. All right, fellas. So listen, thanks for joining us for the night. We had a great time talking to y'all. We'll talk to y'all next time. And peace. Check out one of our other episodes too. If you haven't checked it out, we got a whole lineup of GeekChic. Check it out up in the box there, and we'll talk to y'all later. One.